Dave's Body Shop.
Newly minted Congresswoman Debbie Lesko already finds herself facing a primary challenge from a new opponent. Former Maricopa County Schools Chief Sandra Dowling joins the race. Now she gives us a closer look at the issues she believes voters care about most. And a new face in the race for Congressional District 9. Voters there have given Kyrsten Sinema 3 terms. Now we'll ask staunch conservative Dave Giles why he believes those same voters are ready to head right. The battle to reshape Arizona's congressional delegation tonight on Politics Unplugged.
Good evening. This is Politics Unplugged. I'm Nicole Kreitzen for Dennis Welch tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. We are taking a look at two of the most closely watched congressional races in Arizona, and we start in District 8. This is the seat up for grabs after Trent Franks resigned. Former state lawmaker Debbie Lesko came out on top of a crowded Republican field and went on to defeat her Democratic opponent in the special election, but not by as wide a margin as many expected. So now Lesko's facing a new primary challenge, and joining us now is one of those challengers. You'll recognize former Maricopa County School Superintendent Sandra Dowling. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about that, the timing here. In the special election, a lot of well-known Republicans jumped in, and you chose not to at the time. Why?
Well, I think that there were a lot of good candidates that were in that race, and candidates that I philosophically agreed with, and candidates that I could support, and candidates that I thought were going to do what was probably the most important thing in Washington, D.C. now, and that's bring people together. And they were going to reach across the aisle, you know, so I had a candidate, and I had several candidates in that race that I personally was comfortable with.
Do you think Lesko won't be able to do that?
Well, I think that when you take a look at what's happened just since she's been there, you know, we were at a debate a couple of weeks, or a candidate forum a couple of weeks ago, and she mentioned 5 different conservative groups that she had joined. And when you join those groups, what you do is you leave the district voters behind, because then all of a sudden you get to Washington and they want something from you, and somebody else wants something from you, and all of a sudden the voters end up taking a back seat. And I don't think that that's the way it's supposed to be. I think that loyalty should be to the residents of CD8, period. And if you're going to actually work across that aisle, I think you need to remain as user-friendly to both sides as you possibly can.
You certainly got name recognition. In 2006, you got caught up in what former Phoenix Mayor Phil Gordon called a Sheriff Arpaio's reign of terror, right? SWAT teams raided your home looking for evidence of alleged corruption. You were charged with 25 felonies, all got quashed by the U.S. Attorney's Office. You did plead guilty to 1 misdemeanor. Are you worried this will become a tool for your opponent to use against you?
You know, that's always a possibility anytime somebody wants to, quote, bring up dirt or run a negative campaign. But I don't plan on doing that. There are issues that this country needs to face, and the issues that I faced 12 years ago, I did it with dignity and honor. I went through the system. I was found innocent. Not only was I found innocent, but the county did pay me for a defamation lawsuit, which they would not have done if I was guilty of anything. So I think that in this country, when you, just based on our Constitution alone, our Bill of Rights, when you go through the system and you're proven innocent, you are innocent. And I don't think that that should prohibit you from never being able to provide any public service ever again. So you know, it's always out there, but it's not something that I'm going to focus on. It's not something I'm going to worry about. And, you know, I hope that we can just keep this race based on current issues of today.
So let's go ahead and talk about those issues. I noticed on your webpage, immigration was not at the top.
No.
So obviously it's a hot button issue, but you want to really focus on other things, what you call protecting our seniors. What are your concerns there?
Well, one of the things in my particular case, when I decided that I was going to go ahead and just explore and test the waters to see what would happen, part of that process is signature gathering and making sure that you have the support of the residents in the district. And I was able to, in about 3.5 weeks, garner over 3,000 signatures. And what I did was I went out and talked to the people myself and got outside of that political bubble, Republican and Democrats kind of talking to themselves, just to see what the people have to say. And, you know, the #1 issue every single time was we need to protect Social Security. We need to protect Social Security. We need Medicare reform, but we don't need it to be detrimental to us. And we need to know that we have, and they didn't say affordable health care, they said accessible health care. And I thought that was an interesting differentiation that probably hasn't come out before. But those are the types of issues that are resonating throughout the whole community, whether you're in the retirement community or whether you're in the Peoria area, which has got quite a younger population. And immigration is an important issue, and I don't know that I deliberately left it off, but I just thought that Social Security was the one that came out the most. And And I asked the residents themselves, I said, if I have to choose between funding the border wall, because that's border security, it's not necessarily immigration, but if I had to decide, and it came down to either or, what would you want me to do? And I ran about 70-30 Social Security. So that was definitely, and my job is to not necessarily reflect my personal views. My job is to be the representative, and that means that I have to go to Washington, D.C., and I have to vote just the way you would if you were sitting in
Fight for the people. Fight for the people. So let's talk about the Affordable Care Act. You said it isn't working. Premiums have shot up. You didn't use the term we hear so often, repeal and replace. You say the program needs to be reformed. Would you support a total repeal, or do you think it can be salvaged in any way?
Well, I think one of the ways that you do that, Nicole, is you sit down there again and you get everybody in the room. Next week I am meeting with several different of the major healthcare providers because I want to hear what their recommendations are, and then I want to take those recommendations and I want to kind of explore those with our different populations in the community and hold some forums and find out what the actual people want. What's come out so far is what happens if affordable is great. If we even get it. If we're in a high-risk category, say that we have diabetes or we have cancer, are we going to be able to get health insurance?
And the president wants to nix pre-existing conditions for insurance companies. What do you think about that?
I think that pre-existing conditions, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. I think that it's going to be really important in any platform to have those pre-existing conditions because that's the 90% of the health care that we have today is either employer-based, Medicare, or Medicaid. And of that 90%, they all have some sort of pre-existing condition clause. And I'm in a situation where I had a pre-existing condition. I was in the United States Marine Corps and I had cancer. And so my only option when I got out of the Marine Corps was to go to the VA hospital. And when the VA hospital said to me, Sandra, we can't treat you, we don't have facilities for women, you're going to have to go find someplace else to go.
So you want to protect pre-existing conditions?
I want to protect pre-existing conditions.
What is your biggest issue in our last 30 seconds here?
I think the biggest issue is doing that Social Security reform. I think that's going to be extremely important, and I want to make sure that every single person, I don't care whether you're a senior citizen or whether you're a young child, I want you to have accessibility to health care.
What does that look like? I mean, a higher retirement age, changing benefits for those entitlement programs?
It could mean just absolutely giving you more options to choose from in exactly how you want that health care to look. One of the things that I appreciate when I take a look at the benefit packages that I have is I sit down and I evaluate, well, this one would be good, well, that one would be better. Does this one have available to me? If I do, what is my copay? All of those kinds of questions. But you as a consumer need to have those options, and you need to have them readily and those questions available to be answered. And I think one of the things it's incumbent upon the Congress to do is to make sure that you understand what is available and so that you can make that informed decision.
Sandra Dowling, running for the Republican CD8 primary. Thank you so much for joining us. We have more Politics Unplugged coming up. Still ahead, what one state lawmaker has to say about kids in our schools.
60% of public school children in the state of Arizona today are minorities. That complicates racial integration because there aren't enough white kids to go around.
And are the same voters who sent Kyrsten Sinema to Congress ready for a conservative switch? That's next on Politics Unplugged.
Happening right here.
I want to talk to you. Well, I want to talk to you.
Diamonds, the forever gift. The Jewelry Exchange has half-carat anniversary bands for $2.99, 1-carat 2-stone rings $9.90, 1.5-carat 3-stone rings $19.90, and 1-carat studs just $3.99. All guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange, Phoenix.
It's getting hot.
The deals at Express are even hotter.
Tell me more.
Call today for free in-home shopping. Huge savings up to 63%, and it's all backed by our free lifetime installation warranty.
Call 800-EXPRESS.
I used to think people who complained about whiplash were full of it. Then it happened to me. The other car came out of nowhere and wham! My neck and lower back ached nonstop. Look, I hate going to doctors, but emergency chiropractic was great. Straightforward and no nonsense. They even waited for my claim to settle. Best call I ever made.
Emergency chiropractic, the kind of care you want today.
Buckle up.
A long time ago, I was in an accident, and I dealt with insurance companies by myself. I was ping-pong back and forth between people, not getting calls back, not getting responses, and it was a total nightmare. Don't call the insurance company. Call Lerner and Rowe.
Call 977-1900.
Lyons Roofing has been serving Arizona homeowners with pride since we were a cub back in 1993. And now, we're proud to be a part of Arizona's family with the Lyons Roofing News Chopper. If you're looking for a roofing contractor you can roar about, give us a call or visit us online. Lyons Roofing, fiercely protecting Arizona homes for 25 years.
They're coming, Arizona. Truckloads of repossessed vehicles are arriving at Sullivan Motor Company this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Come to Sullivan Motor Company before these vehicles are sent to auction. 1515 West Broadway in Mesa, on the corner of Broadway and Longmore.
Welcome back to Politics Unplugged. We turn to another closely watched congressional race now. This one focused on Tempe, Chandler, and parts of Phoenix. Congressional District 9. That seat is up for grabs right now. That Kirsten Sinema's making a run for the Senate. And tonight, meet a candidate who believes after 6 years of a Democrat voters, they are ready to move right. With me is businessman Dave Giles. Thank you for being here tonight. You've got a very interesting past, an entrepreneur, an engineer, strategist, consultant, specializing in defense and space. You did 20 years over in Saudi Arabia?
I did more than 20 years working in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, mostly in Dhahran, some in Riyadh, and some in Jeddah.
And a lot of people are saying, okay, to shift from the private sector into politics, you're making that move based on passion.
I'm very passionate about my country, my state, my people here, our people of Arizona, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights.
So a key issue for a big part of Republican base is immigration, of course, right? Do you think the administration is following basically the right policies, separating families at the border? That's been a big talker.
Separating families, it's difficult and sad to see that happen. So I think, yeah, we should try to keep them together. And there's recently in the news this morning, there is a bill to try to keep the families together.
There is, yeah. There are two joint bills that the House is debating right now. What about the latest announcement to eliminate gang and domestic violence as opportunities to seek asylum? A lot of people see that that's not only cruel, but possibly deadly, that it might only send women and children back to potential situations where there's a high likelihood and possibility of being killed. And these are people who are not a threat to our national security. What do you say about that?
Well, we need to find a way to bring them in, make them become citizens. There is a path to citizenship. It already exists. There's 5 things you need to do to become a citizen. You know, one of them is, you know, learn English. Another one is to have some residency here. And most of the people that are concerned about this have been here like 34 years. They have some residency requirements. You have to take an exam. 10 questions out of a possible 100. All questions and all answers are on the website. You have to pass a background check, and typically the background check takes a lot of time. And then you have to swear an oath to
And that's
support America.
the thing, is a lot of these people are saying those seeking asylum don't have time. They're seeking emergency asylum, and from domestic violence and gangs, that's no longer on the table.
If it's a valid demand or a valid reason for being here, we should be looking at that carefully and pay attention to it. However, we have seen recently in the news, there's a lot of people that don't meet the criteria for that and they're being deported back home.
Okay, what about DACA? Now, Congress has promised for months it's going to find a solution for the people who were brought into the states as young children. They've found jobs, or maybe they're going to college right now. Do you think we need to find some way to find a path to citizenship for these people to stay in the country, or should they be deported?
No, I don't think they should be deported. They're valuable, important people. But at the same time, they have a path already. If they follow through the 5 things I just described, they can have a path. That is a path to citizenship. There are some problems with immigration, and one of the examples might be the background check that's being done. If you have some DACA people who've been here for 34 years, and they're trying to research their background on in some place in Mexico or Guatemala, there is no history there. We're looking in the wrong place. We need to look more locally here in the area, such as the Phoenix area or the Tempe area. What is their background here? And if they can pass a background check, then that should speed up the process a lot. And there's other opportunities for optimizing our immigration process.
And I'm forward to your time in the Middle East. You spent a lot of time there. Did the president do the right thing in pulling out of the Iran deal? It gave us very strict but clear ways to watch over Iran's nuclear program, many say.
I think the president's done the right thing. The Iran deal was a bad deal. And if we can do verification, that would be what we need to do, and they're not allowing that to happen.
He's really worked to tighten his alliance with Saudi Arabia, of course, and it's a country that's exported a very strict variant of Islam, and it's the country nearly all of the 9/11 attackers called home. Do you believe that Saudi Arabia has changed, or do you think that the president should be wary?
You need to look at it. It's been about 10 years since I've been there. But there's two sides to this viewpoint. The Saudi Arabian government and people look to America first for their solutions. However, some of the fundamentalists that are taking it to the extreme, we need to have caution with them. If they're coming into the United States from the southern border, for instance, across, they are here to cause us harm, and we need to be careful of that. We need to build the wall is what we need to do.
That's a big talker. You've called for more fiscal responsibility. We saw Republicans pass not only a big tax cut this year, but also improve a mass spending bill. And estimates are between them, we're going to add about $1 trillion more to our national debt. The president went along with this. Would you be against him supporting any further spending, or do you think we need to have matching cuts?
Well, there's appropriation bills that the Congress puts out and gives them to the Senate to pass. These are the proper way of funding our government and our country. The president did right by funding our military. Our military people and veterans are very important. They need the funding and they need the tools to be able to do their job and defend our country. The first priority of our country is to defend our people, us, as citizens.
You've actually called for more tax cuts really quick, especially on business. How would you pay for it? How can we afford that?
As our tax cuts come down and our economies grow and gross national product is going up, the lower tax rate will end up providing you more taxable income coming in because we have a larger volume. And this is where we were going to have our paid on our debts, is with the larger volume. Our economy is doing the best it's done in 20 years. Our unemployment rate's down below 3.9%.
Let's talk about health care, because that's a big talker for people. The past week, the president launched a court challenge to get rid of the mandate to force insurance companies to cover those pre-existing conditions. That was one of the most popular parts of the act. Do you support that move?
I would support the president, yeah. We need to cover people with pre-existing conditions to make sure they have health insurance as well. But
he wants to get rid of it. He wants to get rid of it. He wants to get rid of pre-existing
That would be okay.
Coverage.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But you just said we need to cover these people. But you would go back and support the president.
Oh, support that. By cover the people, I mean that they will have insurance to cover the pre-existing conditions.
Under the president's plan, he is pushing to eliminate that. He's trying to get rid of forcing insurance companies to cover pre-existing conditions.
There's got to be a way to solve that. I have to come back to you on that one. But I do think, that the health care is a very complicated issue that's been trying to be passed for decades. And the Obamacare that's been put in place has been deemed a tax. It needs to be repealed and replaced with a more competitive process of health care insurance. Maybe we can do health care housing, the health care savings plans. Reduce some of the cost in there and some of the regulations on some of our drugs. And they're all part of the health care system. Needs to be addressed.
In our last 30 seconds, what do you think is the biggest issue right now for us?
Security. Our security is the biggest issue. Our security comes from outside defending our country with the world and having a good, strong foreign policy and security. And as it comes in, we come into Arizona, and in Arizona, some of our biggest security is building the border wall. We got to build the border wall to stop the drugs from coming in, stop from human trafficking from coming in, and most of all, stop the terrorists that are wanting to come in. I brought this to show you. This is our border wall. You can step over it either way you want, and there's nobody there to stop you. We need to keep the security there, and as the security comes into our home, we need to have the security. I fully support our police department, our first responders. They're all very valuable in providing security for us. You come a little closer to home, we got our schools. We need to protect our schools and defend our schools. Our children are the greatest asset that we have. They are our future. They are the security of America. We need to take care of them. We can have ex-military, ex-police force, ex-firefighters. They're all willing to work, even if we have to pay for them, to put them at the front line of the schools to protect our children.
I'm going to have to leave it there. Dave, we've run out of time. Dave Giles, thank you so much, running for the Republican primary in Congressional District 9. We have more Politics Unplugged just ahead. Up next, we're going to talk it out with our panel. Stay right here.
TitleMax makes it easy to turn your title into cash. Just go to TitleMax.com. Find out how much you can get.
Using TitleMax.com, I got $1,400.
$3,200.
TitleMax.com got me $9,700.
Best of all, most credit types are approved. Next time you need cash, try TitleMax for rate. Try TitleMax for the amount you need. Find out why so many people are saying, I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
Deal Talk. To make sure my new $4.99 Spicy Chicken Club combo is a great deal, I asked a sales expert.
It's amazing, Jack! You get a spicy, crispy chicken breast, hickory smoked bacon, and melted cheese on toasted sourdough, plus fries and a drink. All for just $4.99.
You said it, Stanley.
Ow. Wait, what's happening?
Stanley, you're deflating!
So cold.
We need a doctor!
Jack, tell my wife I love her.
Try my new $4.99 Spicy Chicken Club combo. Another great deal from Jack in the Box.
It's a whole new experience at Golfland Sunsplash, and no one in Arizona can come close to the thrills and chills of our 30 rides and attractions for every age, like Double Dare, Thunder Falls, Master Blaster, and more. Relax in the lazy river, dive into our wave pool, hit the kids' play area, or enjoy golf, games, and more with passes starting at just $25.99 plus tax. Look for online discounts at golfland.com. Then bring the family and get your splash on, only at Golfland Sunsplash in Mesa.
How can they expect me to sit in a classroom on a day like today? That's why I highly recommend Primavera Online Summer School. You can study anywhere you want. Now you can catch up on credits, or even graduate early. Save summer and check out Primavera today.
Never having been in a car accident, I had zero idea what I was doing. So Learn and Row kind of took that responsibility of mine and helped guide me through that whole legal process. I highly recommend Learn and Row to anyone who's been in a car accident.
Call 977-1900.
The big deal from Mattress Firm is backed by popular demand. Save up to $500 on the best brands like Beautyrest and Serta. And bring home your new mattress for as little as $9 a month. Our lowest payments ever, with 0% interest for 72 months. So now you can save up to $500 and enjoy our lowest ever monthly payments. Hurry in, the big deal won't last long. Your budget stretches further at Mattress Firm.
Welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It's time to talk it out with us today. Barry Dill, our partner from First Strategic, and Emily Ryan with Copper State Consulting. Thanks for being here, of course, today. Let's start off with our guests. What about this race for District 9? It's been fairly moderate. Mr. Giles, certainly a right-wing candidate. Will that resonate with voters in that district?
I don't think so. You know, with all due respect to Mr. Giles, you know, in a good attempt to run, this is a very moderate district. Kirsten Sinema has held that seat, has been reelected. You've got Mayor Stanton running, the mayor of the city of Phoenix. Great name ID, and I think, you know, unless you live near a light rail station, you're probably pretty happy with the way things are going in Phoenix.
He says he's the only one who can beat Stanton. What do you think?
I agree totally with Emily. I mean, with all due respect, I just don't think Mr. Giles is up to the task of taking on what has proven to be a very popular mayor of Phoenix with great name ID, who will be very well funded too, by the way.
Okay, what about District 8? Obviously, Debbie Lesko already came out of a very competitive primary here. Are Republican voters likely to switch horses here?
Well, this last race, the special for her was notable by the fact that there was about 20% of typical Republican voters who voted for the Democrat because they don't like Trump. And it's all pretty much about Trump. So if Sandra Dowling can make Debbie Lesko like a pawn or of the insiders, she might be able to, start to make some headway, but her problem is that the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader, who wants to be Speaker, are heavily invested in Debbie Lesko, and she'll have plenty of resources with which to run a campaign.
Yeah, I agree with Barry. Debbie Lesko is going to be able to raise a ton of money, and that's going to be really hard to overcome.
Okay, so obviously, how do these candidates align themselves with President Trump? So we've been talking about the primaries playing out this year. Is it just how close they should align themselves with the president? And we can look at some of the primaries this week, most notably South Carolina. Representative Mark Sanford lost. He's been a strong critic of the president to an opponent whose main message was that Sanford just wasn't a big enough supporter of President Trump. So will this push more Republicans perhaps even closer to the president?
I actually think that people are making a really bad miscalculation if they think it's just about getting close to President Trump. It didn't help Roy Moore at all, and neither did the horse he rode to the polls on.
Oh, geez.
I think
in
that...
in Alabama, which,
right. Exactly.
A Democrat got elected to the U.S. Senate from Alabama.
Exactly.
For crying out loud. Yeah.
Unprecedented. And this day and age where candidates are holding their finger to the wind and trying to poll everything and decide where to be and who to bear hug, I think the reason Donald Trump was voted for by people who didn't even necessarily like his style was that they sensed some measure of authenticity and gravitated towards that. And I think people are really missing the mark to just keep trying to be the right person.
What you see in polling is that it's astounding to me, but President Trump has 80% approval ratings with Republican voters. Okay. But his problem is the other 20% really hate him, and they don't like him. And so they're either staying home in many of these special elections, or else they're even voting for the Democrat. And the Alabama election was a good example of that.
Yeah, so we have recently Republican Representative David Stringer talking, again, you consider this who his audience, a speech at the Yavapai County Republican Men's Forum in the context of a larger discussion on immigration. It's getting a lot of heat, so take a listen one more time.
60% of public school children in the state of Arizona today are minorities. That complicates racial integration because there aren't enough white kids to go around.
Okay, so after those comments were made public, he responded to critics calling him racist with a statement saying, I wasn't denigrating anybody. I wasn't making a value judgment. I was simply illustrating the impact of rapid demographic change on a vital institution in our society. So the state Republican parties now condemned the remarks and actually called on him to resign along with the governor. Will he step down?
Oh, he's going to have to at some point in time. He just went way overboard with a deplorable remark. I mean, you have to wonder what he says in private, and why he would think that someone in the audience wouldn't have a mic or a camera. And I think the big question is this the norm now in the day of Trump?
That's the big question.
People feel emboldened that they can just make these racist, outrageous statements and to select audiences that they think are favorable to them.
No, I disagree completely. Okay. No surprise. But, if you have spent 10 minutes with Representative Stringer, you know that he says what he thinks, and he's not afraid of it. He campaigned this way. He's not a villain in a movie that just ripped a mask off. He is the same guy no matter where he is, and I don't think he'll resign.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see, of course, what happens. That's all the time we have tonight. Be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged.
Tell her you